Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 65 of Code Lyoko, Final Round. I apologize if I feel like I'm not as into it as I normally am, or if I'm rushing through things. I just did a 21-minute take and I just kind of screwed it up, so this is me redoing it, so apologies in advance. Anyway, to kind of recap what happened in the last week. Last episode, Xana kind of got a big victory. In that last episode, pretty much in the last episode, he created a polymorphic clone of Jeremy to try and with the intent of tricking Aelita into going to Lyoko and getting and possessing her through the Scyphozoa. Well, he succeeded. While he did run into some complications, as some Lyoko warriors still went along for the ride, at the end of the day, the Scyphozoa still managed to possess Aelita, and through her, Xana was able to delete the mountain sector. However, not all hope was lost, as by the end of the episode, Jeremy was thankfully able to perfect his program that will allow him to virtualize directly into Sector 5, so they won't need to go to the end of one of the sectors. But the group, realizing that that Xana's threat is getting too large, they realize they need to expand, and the group immediately turns to William, who they previously had considered letting him join the group, but thanks to Yumi kind of shooting them down, that never happened. So as a result, but thanks to the last episode, Yumi wound up changing her mind on William when he covered for her when she had to sneak out. So now in this episode, sorry, adjusting this a little. So in this episode, we kind of see the follow-up to that, as at the end of the last episode, Yumi told William all about Lyoko, and so this episode allows them to. So this episode actually opens with them in the factory and them kind of telling him pretty much telling him that he has to go into the scanner and just be scanned so that his data will be in the computer and he'll be immune to the return of the past. As with this, he'll officially be a member of the group, which happens. So after that's done, everyone's just kind of happy and ready to turn in for the night. And as such, the next day, everyone's just kind of going about their business. Jeremy and Aelita are working on a program to try and find Franz Hopper, or at the very least, they're finishing a program. Based on what they said, it looks like they've been working on it for a while. While Odd is doing the skate championship thing in the gym with Ulrich there as emotional support, and Yumi's just kind of stuck at her house watching her little brother. However, as this is going on, the group starts running into some snags. For starters, when Jeremy and Aelita are getting the program ready, they're about to go to the factory, but it turns out that this is the day that Jeremy's supposed to be taking part in this interview with Millie and Tamiya, where they plan to follow him around all day. So Aelita says that she'll just go to the factory by herself and input the program. But unfortunately, when she gets there, she finds out that Xana's launching an attack on the core of Lyoko again. As such, she immediately tries calling the group to get them here, but for one reason or another, they're all being held up. Jeremy, because of the aforementioned interview. Ulrich, because just as he got the call, he was unfortunately pulled aside because, thanks to the bad grades he's been sustaining through the season, the school finally called his dad and he's here to chew him out. So Ulrich tries to pass a message on to Odd, because one of the participants in the skating thing is one of the one-off girls from season 1, Sam, who is after that episode transferred to another school on the other side of the country, and is here for the skating championship. She has feelings for Odd, and they're both obvious, and they both want to be, and they both do like each other. But just before he goes off, he tells Sam, "Tell Odd to meet me at the computer lab. He'll know what I'm talking about." But as Ulrich is being dragged away and Odd comes back to talk with Sam, she plays dumb and doesn't impart the knowledge. And as for Yumi, she's just stuck at home because her brother's being a dick. So, yeah. As a result, the only Lyoko warrior that's able to make it is William, who is just kind of super excited and pumped to go into Lyoko because he wants to see what it's like. As such, while Aelita's a little reluctant to go with William since he's kind of the newbie, Jeremy tells her that unfortunately that their priority is to protect the core, so they gotta make do with what they have, and that was part of the reason why they got William, because they needed the extra help. As such, Aelita just pretty much agrees, and she starts with the virtualization process, with her and William making a beeline to the scanner. As such, they get virtualized into Lyoko, and I'm just going to say this right now, William's weapon is a Buster Sword, and that is awesome. And at the instant they go into Sector 5, they kind of go through the whole shebang. Like, they go to the other room where there's the puzzle and where there's a puzzle and the key, and while they're in there, they end up running into some creepers. William says he'll take care of them while Alita goes after the key, and to be fair, it's kind of obvious that he's still kind of new to the process, but at the same time, he's having fun as he uses his sword to just wipe out monster after monster, even when Alita finally gets the key and shuts and keeps the room from pretty much trapping them. However, however, William is still too high on fighting monsters, so he says, "I'll come on just with a couple more." But as a result, unfortunately, a blockade of platforms ends up separating Aelita and William. And thankfully, Jeremy's able to make it to the factory at this point, as he was able to ditch Millie and Tamiya by claiming to have to go to the bathroom and then sneaking out through a window. But when he gets there, William immediately calls in and says, I've got a problem. There's a new monster here. And it turns out it's the Scyphozoa. It turns out that the Scyphozoa, it's now closing in on William. Jeremy tells Alita that she's got to make it around us to help him, because of the blockade, she's got to take the long way. But unfortunately, by the time she gets there, it's too little too late. The Scyphozoa has attacked William, and Xana is now possessing the aforementioned child. And just to prove that he's in control, Xana uses William to virtualize Alita in one swoop of the Buster Sword. As such, Jeremy kind of realizes the situation is dire, gets in contact with each member of the group again, and each of them are able to meet up with them in one way or another. With Yumi manages to sneak by her brother by claiming the call from Jeremy is their dad, so he can just go ahead and tell on her. He gets the call, and when Sam says that Ulrich was the one that delivered the message, Ulrich gave her the message, he questions her and says, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she says, "Because we haven't seen each other in a while, and I just wanted to hang out with you," which does kind of leave their relationship which is some nice character stuff, which I'll get to when this is done. And when Ulrich gets the call, he's in the middle of being shit out by his dad, and Ulrich pretty much says, "Screw this, I'm out," without even giving an explanation. As such, the three make it to the factory just as William makes it to the core of Lyoko with a group of creepers, and under the possessed William's supervision, they all do a synchronized attack on the core and destroy the first outer layer. The group thankfully managed to get virtualized into Sector 5 and managed to make it to the core, but unfortunately they make it just as the second layer is destroyed. And the instant William sees them, it's a very one-sided battle. He jumps to the bottom floor where they are, and while Odd and Yumi immediately make a run to the top so they can stop the creepers, that's still not enough to save them, as William uses his Buster Sword because he can shoot beams out of it, and he can shoot beams out of it, and he uses that to virtualize Odd without even running after him. After that, he and Ulrich get into a one-on-one fight, and William just immediately devirtualizes him before he finally jumps up to the second floor and devirtualizes Yumi personally. As such, with no one there to protect the core of Lyoko, William jumps at it and stabs his Buster Sword right in, completely obliterating it and destroying what was left of Lyoko. Xana has won. And to make matters worse, they now have lost 2 people. William, because he was in Lyoko when it went down, and unfortunately Franz Hopper, as the program Aelita was doing finished just before William devirtualized everyone, and just before William destroyed Lyoko, Jeremy activated the code to find Franz and devirtualize him, but it wasn't allowed to finish but Lyoko was destroyed before it was finished. Which means that hold on. Sorry, my dog knocked the tablet off of my bed. But yeah, pretty much they're screwed. Franz Hopper is lost, and so is William. And with Lyoko gone, the group has no way of stopping Xana. As such, the episode ends with them all going back to the Hermitage estate and all just kind of lamenting this loss, because they don't know what they're going to do now. Without Lyoko, they can't fight Xana, and with Franz, now Franz Hopper is now essentially gone, so to speak, and Alita's just lamenting that she'll never see her father again. However, in the midst of all this, there's one little spark of hope comes back to life. as Jeremy's laptop immediately starts getting alerts, and when Jeremy goes to check it, he finds that there's an email from the internet, and the sender is Franz Hopper. So that's where the episode ends. So yeah, overall, this was a great episode. I definitely kind of like it because throughout the whole episode, it just feels like everything is good. It's just I feel like everything is just slowly but surely getting worse. It kind of carries over from the last episode. First and foremost, we get to it seems like things start out cautiously optimistic as William is now brought into the group and seems to be able to, and seems optimistic and ready to go. But then little by little things go wrong. The group each get held up for one reason or another. When Aelita and William go to Lyoko, William is, of course, excited and ecstatic to be here because it's all like a game. It all seems like a game in the beginning, which Aelita does get annoyed at, but again, he's new. It makes sense. But then after that, they get separated, only for the Schifozoa to attack William and get him and get Xana to possess him. And just one little by little, things are just going wrong. When Aelita gets there, William takes her out in one swipe. William then immediately coordinates this immediate attack with a bunch of creepers on the core of Lyoko, and it looks like it seems like an even greater attack than all the other previous ones, because the other ones were just Xana sends monsters, they attack. This time, however, there's someone coordinating them, and we saw that briefly when Xana possessed Oryx's body, at least a few episodes back, but here Xana's deciding, how about I try both? As he not only he coordinates the creepers and William to all just attack it at the same time. And as we saw when William fought Aelita, his Buster Sword is very powerful, as he was able to take her out with just one swipe, and the rest of the Lyoko group goes down just as quickly. And add on top of that, the Lyoko group, because they each got delayed little by little, when they finally do arrive, it's too late. And William is able to easily take them out, and to make matters worse, even when they do get what looks like a sliver of hope with the program for Franz Hopper being ready before it can be finished, William destroys Lyoko. It definitely just kind of makes it. By the end of the episode, you're like, what's gonna go happen now? Because the show's not over. There's one more season after this, but it just kind of keeps raising the tension, and it definitely just keeps making you think, what's gonna happen now? Because this is probably the greatest loss the group has suffered. But now, thankfully, like other seasons, they still try to offer a grain of hope, as if Franz Hopper was able to send them an email through the internet, that means he's still alive, and that means that they might still have a chance of taking down Xana. But unfortunately, even with that in mind, the bad guys are still Xana still gets scored an almost major victory here. He had succeeded what he was doing throughout the whole season. Lyoko is destroyed, and that was the only way the group could have any chance of fighting Xana. Now that it's gone, they're kind of screwed. There's nothing they can do now. And to make matters worse, the new recruit, the guy that they were building up for 2 seasons, he's been taken. He was in Lyoko when it was destroyed, after Lyoko was destroyed, we still see that he is alive, but Xana has clearly still got a hold on him. As while his eyes don't have the symbols anymore, his forehead pulsates with the Xana tattoo, and his outfit was now changed. Which, to kind of go on a slight tangent, I did admittedly like William's outfit when he entered Lyoko. It kind of reminded me of the Fantastic Four Future Foundation suit with it being a white shirt with white lines and black pants and boots. And as I mentioned, his weapon is a Buster Sword, and that's freaking awesome. Nothing can change my mind on that. But now that we see him possessed by Xana, the outfit is now completely changed. It's now all black. That's got red outlines instead of the black ones. And as we eventually learn in later episodes, the Buster Sword is now emblazoned with Xana's symbol. So yeah, it's a kind of a big deal. And I'm just going to talk about William here right now. Seeing him because, just another spoiler, he does come back. He does become a... Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Anyway, like I said, William does come back in later episodes, but as a consequence of this episode, he is a servant of Xana, which, in my opinion, is kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, this is honestly kind of fantastic. I kind of think this is cool. As we saw in this season, Xana has found a way around the whole possessing one of the Lyoko warriors handicap, as we've seen without. As we've seen, Xana cannot possess them the way he possesses other people. He needs to use the Scyphozoa to possess them because they built up a resistance to the ghost that he sends out because of their time in Lyoko. As a result, he's been able to get around that with the Scyphozoa, but any possessions he's had in the group have only lasted for so long. But this season introduced the idea of one of the warriors being turned into a weapon against the group. Xana's possessed Aelita enough times for that to be a common threat, and then in the episode where Ulrich got separated from his body and Xana took his body, and Xana took advantage of the situation and took Ulrich's body, we saw him having control of one of the Lyoko warriors. So I think it kind of makes sense for Xana to decide the best way to fight these kids is with these kids. So in this case, when William becomes a member of the Lyoko group, he immediately takes advantage of his naivete and inexperience to launch an attack on him and possess him. And again, spoiler, next season he becomes a constant threat. And I think that's kind of cool because in a way it kind of reminds me of the evil ranger type of deal. You know, like how in some seasons of Power Rangers, how sometimes the Sixth Ranger starts as an enemy before becoming an ally? For me, I think that's kind of cool. Because I'm a sucker for the Dark Doppelganger fights, and to have someone who has similar capabilities to the heroes, but is working for the bad guys, I think that's actually really interesting. And like I said, at the end of the episode, and this episode showcases that William as an enemy is probably a formidable one. His Buster Sword is really powerful and took out each member of the group one by one. Which, I think is really damn interesting. I think it was really damn cool. I think it was really damn cool, but also at the same time he's working for the bad guys, so you don't really want him to continually use that. So, again, I think that's cool that Xana has his own Lyoko warrior to combat them. So, I like that. But on the flip side of that, what I don't like is how quickly it happens. As we've established, throughout seasons 2 and 3, William has gradually been developed. Just a little bit here, a little bit there, but throughout the series since his introduction, we've had development for William and his relation to the group. His dynamic with Yumi and Ulrich, with the rest of the group, who William was as a person. And for the most part, William, in dire situations, has shown to be technically in control. Yeah, he's still a teenager, and definitely has the same horn dog qualities that a bad boy like him would have, because he goes after Yumi, he does lame pickup lines, and yes, he gets on her nerves in a similar case to Ulrich. And yes, he has been immature at times, but we've also seen him we've also seen that in times of a crisis, he can be relied upon. In the episode in the Marabunta episode, he was the one that pretty much woke Ulrich up and made him realize, if you don't do something, you're gonna lose Yumi forever. And as a result, it's what made Ulrich realize, I'm being kind of an asshole right now. Then, of course, there was the episode where Xana devirtualized the crabs. William was a vital part of that as he helped the group fend them off. And then in the episode when Xana did the zombie apocalypse, William was the one to coordinate everyone and try and keep everyone together so that they'd stay safe. In times of crisis, we've seen that William can actually be a good person. Hell, the episode that made the group start to consider bringing William in was the episode when Xana possessed that one guy who was from that bomb depot or bomb factory. I forgot which one. Bomb disposal? Might be bomb disposal. And when he tried to blow the factory, and William helped him out by helping to disarm it. So we've seen that William could be a capable fighter. And again, I do buy that William would be kind of excited for going to Lyoko because he's still a teenager. And as we saw in the episode when Ulrich got amnesia, when he went into Lyoko and when he first got into Lyoko after his memory wipe, he thought it was just all fun. It felt like a video game. He thought he was just having the time of his life. And it was a similar case to William here. Yes, it was a little annoying, but at the same time, I feel like that if he can get more experience, that as he gained more experience with the group, he probably could have gotten better. And we've already established that he can have a solid dynamic with them. As like I said, we've established his relationships with Ulrich and Yumi. What about when he's at we could probably establish him with Odd. See Odd try to get used to them, or Jeremy and Alita, seeing them have to get used to dealing with William on their regards. And we saw that a little bit with Alita because, well, again, William was being a bit childish in his first run. Again, to be fair, teenager. So again, this is all good stuff, and it kind of is cool to see it. And considering the development he's had, I think it would have been cool to see him as a more active member of the group. But unfortunately, this is his only episode where he's an active member, because after this episode and onward, he's fighting for the bad guys, and from what I can gather, he never goes back to Lyoko as a member of the main group. He does in the sequel/reboot Code Lyoko Evolution. And while I haven't seen that, I am grateful for that, even though I've heard reactions to Evolution be mixed at best. But for whatever reason, after he gets possessed in this episode, William, in all subsequent appearances, is a tool of Xana. Which, I'm sorry to say, I think kinda sucks. We spent 2 seasons developing his character and just what kind of a person he was. And now when they finally decide, let's bring him into the group, he's only there for 1 episode, and then the bad guy bad guy says, mine. I think that's kind of dumb. Like, I feel like that's just a kind of a dumb way to try and keep the status quo up. Again, it is cool seeing William act for the bad guy, but in the same, but kind of going back to the evil ranger trope, one of the things that is cool about the trope is when the ranger joins the good guys. Whenever there's a storyline like that in Power Rangers, it always is kind of nice seeing the Rangers realize I'm the bad guy, or break the mind control or whatever, make them realize I want to be with you guys, and seeing them fight side by side. Seeing people who were enemies and now working as allies, since that's part of the whole Ranger thing. They're a team dynamic, and the same is true for Code Lyoko. These kids are a team, and they work together to fend off Xana and save the day. So introducing William as the new new member of the group, I think is cool. But at the same time, they go to all the trouble to develop him just so that the bad guy can take him, which I think kind of sucks a little. Again, I like the whole idea of Xana having his own Lyoko warrior, but at the same time, I think it would have been better if we had had more time with William as a member of the group, and just kind of see more of that dynamic. I just want to see more of that. I just kind of would like to see more of that, that's all. So, yeah, again, double-edged sword. Cool to see Xana have his own warrior. Still does suck though that we essentially spent 2 seasons developing this character only for him to be taken on his first mission. So, yeah. I'm trying to think of what else. Well, I guess another thing that I kind of like is the kind of B plots in the real world. As while they're minor, they're actually some good character stuff. For one thing, this episode kind of allows us to finally get a good grasp on the Ulrich's relationship with his dad. In the first episode where it was featured, we were told their relationship, but not really shown it. Which, as I complained about in the vlog for that episode, I think that's stupid. I kind of prefer a show don't tell mentality. We were told about their strained relationship, but we weren't shown it. Here, we see a little bit more of it. It's not a lot, but it's enough to establish that they're not on good terms with each other. Ulrich's dad is definitely what they said before. He's a perfectionist, and the instant he hears that Ulrich's not doing well in school, he is pissed off. Now, to be fair, there are parents that definitely feel like that, but it seems like his dad is one of those, you gotta get great grades, or you're not doing it right, or you're not doing this right. Which, just kind of for any parents watching this right now, don't do that to your kids. I understand you want a best future for them, and the better the grades they have, the better their chances of the future are. But at the same time, I feel like that aiming for such perfection puts unnecessary strain on the kid, and can make them feel and can cause pressure to build up to the point where it can cause harmful psychological effects later in life. So, I'm sorry, but I don't really like that. I understand. Again, to any parents, I know you want the best for your kids, and that's fair. That's nice, but you do need to give them some leeway. Which unfortunately, Ulrich's dad is not doing that with Ulrich. Now, to be fair, Ulrich, as we saw in the season, is not doing well. Though again, to bat for Ulrich, his dad immediately, when Ulrich tries offering the defense, you remember what it was like living at my age? His dad's like, yeah, I was getting straight A's, and I wrote a college diploma. Like, what? Are they like in high school? I guess they probably are, since this is an academy. But how old is Ulrich that he has to get a college that he's got to apply for college that early? Just what the heck? Ultimately, what causes Ulrich to draw the line and say, "No, I'm done dealing with you," is when his father says that I think you should stop hanging out with your friends. I think they're a bad influence on you, because that's just like no. I think all kids need some level of social interaction, and while you probably could cut back on it in order to study, at the same time, that's just like no, that's just bad. Ultimate, so it ultimately ends kind of uncomfortably on that. It kind of ends uncomfortably when after Ulrich storms out. Like it definitely feels like there could be more to that, and while it is brief, it's still more than we had before. And then this goes to Odd as well. While like I said, when this episode brings back the one-off character Sam, who I honestly forgot a bit. I honestly kind of forgot about after this. I didn't remember that she was there. I think I just forgot her name. Seeing her come back and seeing her and Odd hit it off, I think it's cute. They both are clearly attracted to each other and like spending time with each other. The only reason they don't do it more often is because she goes to school on the other end of the country while Odd still goes to Caddick. So seeing them together, it is kind of cute because they both do genuinely care about each other and want to spend time with each other. But something that I think I like is the fact that, well, ultimately Odd does it kind of still showcases that, because something that me and Haley talked about a couple weeks ago. Just even with Odd's social life, his Lyoko duties are something he takes very seriously. The reason Sam didn't tell Odd about this is because of her circumstances. They don't get to spend a lot of time together, and this is one of the rare opportunities they can spend with each other. And they were having fun. She wanted to keep that going, but Odd rightfully calls her out and says, "No, that wasn't. No, you need to tell me this. It was important, and I need to do this. And I like you, I really do. But this is probably a little bit more important," which also leaves that moment to be more somber, because ultimately Odd just runs off, just leaving Sam there. It's clear that she probably is hurt a little, but at the same time, Odd's probably hurt as well. And it does kind of, and unfortunately, and based on what Sam said, it probably could go figure that after this episode, they might not be able to resolve this. It's nice stuff, and it actually is development that I think we should have had earlier in season 1. Stuff like this was stuff that was talked about but not shown. This episode shows the stuff briefly, but enough to give you a grasp of what's happening in their lives and what they stand to lose when they do their Lyoko thing. Which I like that. The only exceptions to that are Jeremy and Yumi, as we've seen Yumi and her brother, and ultimately how Yumi gets out of it is by outsmarting her brother, and Jeremy, similar thing, ran out the window. But again, those little bits of character stuff with Ulrich and his dad and Odd and Sam, I think that was good. It was brief, but it was enough so that I think you can get a slight grasp on their situations. I'm trying to think. I already talked about it, but again, ultimately, what this final strength of this episode is just kind of the complete WTF factor of Xana's victory. Like in previous seasons, we've had Xana always have his keep a foot in the door every time the group has gained a major victory for the season. Season 1, they managed to devirtualize Alita, but she was still connected to the supercomputer, so they couldn't shut it down. Season 2, they managed to get Alita disconnected from the supercomputer and get her memories of Earth back, but unfortunately, Xana got the key to Lyoko, is now escaped into the internet, and in order to save Alita and Franz Hopper and the only reason Alita got her memory back is because Franz Hopper saved her life, which caused him to be almost lost again. And in this season, things are continuing to get worse, as Xana has managed to destroy Lyoko, cutting the group off from their only way of fighting them, and in the process, they've also lost Franz Hopper and William, who at this point was pretty much was an innocent. Now he's been trapped by the bad guy, and the episode makes it clear he's still around and could still be a threat. But they still offer a grain of hope with the email from Franz Hopper. I think that's it. Definitely helps raise the stakes because it makes you wonder what they're gonna do now. Lyoko is gone, but these kids are still. But with Lyoko's gone, but these kids still need to keep fighting. Otherwise, because after all, show's not over, and if the show and we still don't know what Xana's end goal is. So it's really interesting to watch, and it definitely keeps mounting the tension higher, and definitely makes you want to know what's going to happen for the next season. So yeah, on the whole, final round is a really good episode that I think raises enough attention that raises enough tension to keep you invested. Definitely has a lot of interesting character moments, a lot of more mysteries that that will be continue to expand on in the next season, and overall, yeah, just really good. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week as we start up season 4 of Lyoko and see exactly as we finally enter the end game and learn more of Xana's true goals. So, yeah, that's about it. Take care, everyone, and have a good night.